1, 2. Here we go. It's my time to rise. It's my time to shine. It's my time to live. It's my time to fly. It's my time. It's my time. I can see it. I can feel it. Time has come now to reveal it. I've been waiting for a long time. Gotta do it. And won't let me.
Well, welcome. You know what time it is. It's Living Life Successfully with Sonja Busha, and that would be me. I am your host. I am educating, inspiring, motivating, and empowering you to be a better you, a healthier you, whether that be your mind, body, or spirit, and now finances, helping you to make it a lifestyle. I'm excited to be here and thank you for joining us tonight and just taking time out of your schedule to see, hey, Ebony Excellence Celebration Month, where we are highlighting African-American pioneers in the financial industry, past, present, and, moving forward, the people who are on the move. So we just pray and hope that you enjoy everything that you have heard. And without further ado, I want to introduce none other than my guest, my co-host, who has been with me throughout this. Well, we're doing 90 days, and then you'll see what after that. We'll see what's after that. But this 90-day push to bring some valuable information to you, because we are just wanting to reach the masses and make sure that we're giving you, empowering you with information that you may already know about, or maybe you don't know about. So that's our goal. We're here changing lives. Without further ado, introduce yourself, Michael Ray.
My name is Michael R. Deckard for the world, Deckard to my family. Thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Busha. Appreciate all the opportunities that you've given us, and we're looking forward to the interview this evening.
Thank you so much. Again, those who are just tuning in, you're listening to Living Life Successfully with Sonja Busha. I do want you to put your names, your information in the chat boxes, any questions that you may have, so that we can get back with you. We want to make sure that you leave empowered and that you're educated on whatever it is that you are looking for on this evening. Now, you can reach me on several platforms on YouTube, and that's Living Life Successfully with Sonja Busha, as well as my social media platforms, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You can also text me at 33057, 33056 to 63975. If you're looking for, business opportunities, or you want to know more about how to save money or income protection or whatever it is you're looking for, I can help you out, as well as calendly.com/Coach Sonja Busha, and just schedule that appointment with me, because like we said before, Michael, it's time for review policies.
Review policies. You might be paying for those over eight-track policies. We can get you on the streaming policies where you can get more for your money. Get living benefits, tax-free income, as well as your death benefit. Not saying that it would, but it potentially you can get more for what you're already paying for. So yes, let us sit down and schedule a time frame to go over what you have and see if we can't get you something a little better.
Exactly. So can you tell our listening audience how they can reach you, please?
My email address, michael.deckard@gmail.com. You can catch me on LinkedIn, as well as you can text 40292 to 63975. We'll get with you, schedule that appointment, go over what you already have or get you what you don't have, and we can get you protected in ways that most people don't really know that they can get protection these days. So we look forward to helping everybody as much as possible.
Exactly. So without further ado, I'm sure you're probably interested and wondering, what are they going to share with us tonight? Well, there has been a lot of economic injustice, a lot of income inequality, from way back. And even still today, Michael, we're facing, where there has been some improvement, but then we're still facing, some challenges in our economic system. And when I think about Martin Luther King's, his speech, and we'll talk about that later, but where he was in, I've been to the mountaintop,
Right.
or even in I Have a Dream, he was talking about creating a sustainable economic system. And I must say, we have come a long way when we look at it from separation, segregation versus integration, which is where I really want to start tonight before we dive into, how it has been it has placed or been a big impact on society, on the African-American culture, and just some great things, because I don't want to focus on so much as, the negative impacts, but I do, because we're talking about excellence and how we have overcome, because I must say we have overcome in so many ways. So let's just touch, before we move any further, on how there was separation, segregation, and then integration.
Right. Basically, the flow of that, when people were purchasing their freedom or given their freedom as slaves, they were separated. They were already separated when they were slaves. They didn't stay like in the same housing quarters as the people that own them or the people that they were working for. And so that separation, we were separated from our natural people when they went and brought us over here. And so the mindset of how people had to go from separation, and then as things progressed a little bit, there was segregation. So the segregation is what started people to start working together and acquiring property and, starting businesses and doing things that were better than they were, but they still weren't where they should be. And there's been a lot of arguments, Dr. Busha, as far as people saying that the integration part of the process basically set us back as a people. And the main reason for that would be because now you have people that are aspiring to live in gated communities and, do things in a manner that they separate themselves. So there's no consistency within an African American community, because we've integrated ourselves. We've integrated schools where they really weren't teaching about Black history. They really weren't teaching things that were pertinent for us. It was basically, we met the requirements and we made the grades and they graduated us, but we were, as my grandfather would say, we were educated fools. So we had book smarts, but we didn't really know about our history. We really didn't know about things that are necessary for us to be able to make a difference. And so the process in and of itself of becoming integrated and becoming a part of a community that didn't accept us and didn't want us, it kind of set us back, if you will. Not saying that integration has been bad, but it has definitely made us be separate again. So it's a new form of separation, if you will.
Yeah, I must, I agree. When they were fighting for integration, we left that segregation, because when we started talking about even some of the Black Wall Street, and how it was birthed out of necessity, being segregated again caused us to be united. It caused us to use our skills. It caused a lot of our God-given talents for us to rise above, what was going on, to be birthed out. And during segregation, they were fighting because they weren't able to, they worked in the South sides or on the white side. And they weren't able to buy things on that side, though. They weren't able to spend their money, but they worked over there, so they didn't have a place to spend it.
Right.
And so they were fighting for integration. You know, they thought it would be better to be able to use those bathrooms, use the, you know, the water fountains, the restaurants, and be able to go shop because they needed those things. And so integration really stopped our Black communities from really thriving as one or us sharing, you know, together. And when they had segregation, which is what they were thinking when they said, let's integrate, was they wanted better economic systems. You know, they wanted social services to go forth, things, you know, the institutions, hospitals, things that we were not getting, that's why they were fighting for it, to make sure that we did get it, but somehow we still, in some ways, are still left behind.
Right.
And so I just want to take a journey back, looking at some of the excellence that, even though we were segregated and we thought it was not a good thing, although again, I think if, you know, I wasn't born then, but just looking back on some of the history, we really had, excuse me, some advantages.
Oh, absolutely. And I can tell you, based on stories that I've heard my parents share, not even grandparents, just my parents, you know, my mom went to a high school that was completely Black folks. Woodson High School, they had Woodson Elementary, Woodson Junior High, and Woodson High School. And she was a graduate of Woodson High. Now, got all kinds of accolades and recognition. They were the first of any of color to be able to march with her band in high school in the Rose Parade, the Rose Bowl Parade. They got invited from Abilene, Texas, to go and be a part of that. So she got to do some awesome things going to an all-Black school. And educationally, the teachers were more involved with the kids at the time. Everybody was focused on making the best that they could out of their education that they were receiving at the time. Mm-hmm. And there were more people that were pushed and supported to do and be more, you know. And so I listened to those stories, and then being raised by someone that lived a life like that, she pushed me, you know, her and my dad, they pushed me and my sister to do and excel as good as we could. And you know, a lot of that it's not going on today. You know, the teachers are just trying to survive in classrooms before COVID. You know, they don't want to say or do too much because the laws now, you know, aren't supportive in making sure that everybody gets what they need. So it's just, you know, give them the information, and if they do get it, it's okay. But if they don't, it's okay. I was there. I did my part, you know. Yeah. And it's just a whole different mindset. Just a different mindset.
Right. And even, you know, they're talking about removing some things out of the curriculum that if we don't come together as a people, there will not be any of our history at all taught. It will need to be, you know, taught most definitely at homes if we don't stay abreast on what's happening in the political system, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so looking at Black excellence and financial industry as we take this journey, some of you may have heard about Rosewood, Florida. It was known for the timber industry. They had a major riot back in 1923, but it developed into a major Black community back then. They had 3 churches, it says schools. They even had a sugarcane mill, as well as a baseball team and stores, and they were an independent community. Some of you may have heard of Slocum, Texas. Right here, it has now been recognized as one of the Black Wall Street, you know, towns, communities as well. So with that, they had a lot of property. It's called the East Texas Oil Field. And so then there was Central Park, Manhattan in New York, which is now, that's where, I know they said Angela Davis and her sister, someone, they bought some land back then, and that's where they built AME Zion Church, and they developed a Black community there as well. And then there is, I'm just taking you down a little journey here. There was the Bayou in Mississippi, which was known as the Land of Promise. And they actually pushed education. And then you have Glenarden, Maryland in the 1910s, where they purchased multiple tracts of land, and they formed a residential city there. And they were on the move too. And they were known as a middle class, suburban population. And then what I wanted to highlight on tonight, and there, of course, are many more, but our greatest one that is most remembered and most popular and really expressed progress, which is known as the Black Wall Street, was located in none other than Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And everybody just remembers, that particular community. And it's awesome to read the history and read about what they did and how that community thrived. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about the 9 entrepreneurs who helped actually build Tulsa, Black Wall Street, during that time in the Greenwood community. And even before that time, Michael, it was in Chicago, because I wanted to lead up to this. Okay. But with that, it was telling me that the Blacks in Greenwood, they had home ownership, but right before this riot in 1919, that was known as the Red Summer, because so many riots, over 25 major riots took place. But Chicago at that time in 1909, they said was the worst one before the riot that happened in Greenwood. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the 9 awesome entrepreneurs that, helped build this community.
Okay, let's get it.
All right. So we can start with O.G. Gurley. O.G. Gurley was commonly referred to as the founder of Greenwood, and we're going to be talking about him later anyway as one of our one of the pioneers in the financial industry. But let's just talk about how he brought the land. He was a wealthy landowner, and how he moved from, he was born to free slaves in Alabama. He was raised in Arkansas, and then he came to Oklahoma, and he did his thing. He started purchasing buildings and providing loans to help our Black people start their own businesses.
Okay, that's what's up. Yes. Now, and that was the thing about it, is we back then looked at different, vast majority of the difference of things the way they are today. And instead of making excuses, they found ways to collectively work together one way or another. And they didn't worry about the past that they had to come over. They looked at their future. And even though it was hard, and it was much harder then than it is now, much harder then than it is now, we have the advantages of technology and picking up the phone and calling and doing like we're doing now with Zoom, reaching millions of people at one time. Mm-hmm. They had to go the old-fashioned route. They had to get the horse and the buggy, or they had to jump on the horse by themselves, saddle up and ride it out, or walk, And so they saw that as a big opportunity to take advantage that was given to them, even though it was just a little bit, right? And then they took it and they pressed that little bit together, and they kept pushing things and kept pulling things and strategizing ways that they've made history. And I look forward to being able to hopefully one day being one of the financial pioneers of the new age of money and the new world of money.
Right.
Saying, I'm glad that they came together and forged together and built like they did, like the forefathers did in the early 1900s, in order for us to have an example. We know that it can get done. We just got to work in. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Exactly. And he purchased over 40 acres, of land. He acquired it and he shared it. And so they were able to build from that. And with that, then you have JB Stratford, Stradford, for those who want to look him up. He was a lawyer from Kentucky who came over, and when he was in Kentucky, he owned pool halls, shoe shine parlors, he owned houses. And so he came and he brought his knowledge and mixed it with OG Gurley. And so he was known as the largest in Greenwood. He established the hotels there. So I thought that was great. That held 54 guests, it said. It had 54 guest suites in it, a pool hall, a salon, and a dining room. Ooh. So they were doing it, you know, just bringing our people together. Again, it was said that Greenwood, or the things that they had to do, was built out of necessity. And when I think about that, because they couldn't buy things, you know, after they made their money on the in the communities, they worked over there, but they couldn't spend their money. It was, they started exercising what they call economics. There was a supply and a demand. And so because they weren't able, there was a demand for goods, which they were not able to produce, they weren't able to purchase those things. So they had to come up with a way. So that lets me know that when you have it in your mind, when you make it up, rather, in your mind to do something, and you get together of people, man, we can do the unstoppable. That's why I like this song, Unstoppable. We're unstoppable. But nevertheless, they came together and they began to produce items that they could not purchase. And they set up their own system on their side of town. And with that, they were able to, like I said, they had their own things. And you had these people coming together, establishing hotels for them, buying the land. And then there was A.J. Smitherman, whose family moved from the Indian Territory, because Oklahoma at the time was divided into two sections, Oklahoma and Indiana, Indian Territory. And so they founded that, and they started their own Black newspaper. Imagine they could write what they, you know, what they needed to. I'm sure it was positive. They had their thing going on. And then there was, what's her name? No, not her, but I do want to get to the lady on the night when we start talking about the wealthy people, because we do have a lady, that Miss Maggie Walker, that was a part of the banking financial institution. Wow.
Right.
So we are going to be touching on her. But then we had Ellis Walker, who was a part of the education system. And so she was able to start that and educate our people, you know, on in their community, because education was important. And then we have, who is this, Simon Berry, who was a pilot. And yeah, and so they created their own transportation system, you know, for them, which made me think about the post office. I know we were talking about that, how I was like, wow, they had their own post office, you know, what did that look like? And so let's talk about, you know, just some of the stuff that they had to create a necessity, like their post office. Because I was saying, you know, I think I was talking to you about, well, was it governed? What, you know, what exactly took place? And so we can kind of break that down a little bit.
It's kind of more of, again, like you said, the need to be able to send mail. And if you can't send mail through the carriers that are taking care of one, you know, population in the United States, they're like, oh, so what are we going to do? So they came up with innovative ways to make sure that they could send messages, send letters of encouragement, because you got to know it was not an easy situation to deal with the stuff that they were dealing with. And so they would send information, you know, the same way that Harriet Tubman used to send messages in songs. They had to send mail, and they had to find a way to get it. So they would contract with people that were willing to take the mail from one location and get it distributed. And so, I mean, even in modern day time now, you have contracted distributors that take packages for either Amazon, FedEx, UPS, DHL. So again, something that we came up with the idea to do. Not going to get the credit for it like we're due, but because of necessity, they came up with innovative ways to get it taken care of. And that was just one of them. Absolutely.
Right. And then check this out. There was one couple that I thought, so you hear a lot about the, the Black men that were the pioneers in the system. I didn't hear much about couples that started, but there was a couple, and it was John and Lulu Williams. And he didn't shun her from anything. He included her in every decision, everything that they did. And they were the wealthiest, one of the wealthiest Black families in Tulsa. And they owned what was known as the Dreamland Theater on Greenwood Avenue, along with rooming houses, confectionery, commercials. They had rental property. Also, as you can tell in these pictures and different things that we're showing before you, but it was awesome. I was like, wow, well, here's a couple that came together. And like I said, he included her, as well as our Black bank. That was the very last Black bank. As you can see her picture too, Miss Maggie Walker. She was the one who was able, she took her money, she was an educator, and she brought that money together. And so she is known as the first African, it was the first African-American bank, but not only that, woman, Black owned bank. So I'm proud to say that.
Right.
And then I was thinking about, speaking of economic systems and, Black banks, in the speech that Martin Luther King did, but those are some of the entrepreneurs that started, the Black Wall Street in Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, that you may have already heard about. But again, we just want to kick it off with them because Black Wall Street money, and where we're going and where we are today, is very important that we just reemphasize where our pioneers and what they wanted. Because for us, when Martin Luther King, before his assassination in 1968, I was asking you and asking many different people, do you really think that we're still carrying on what God showed him during that time? Any more or people, because you find a lot of people, there are Black businesses, but people are not or have not been coming together. But I guess I must say, out of COVID last year, can't believe, was it 2020? A lot of businesses did start being birthed out of there. And I would say they were out of necessity. And people started putting their minds together, and what we were made to do is coming forth, in today's time.
Absolutely. And that's what has pretty much, that this is the new norm, if you will. And I've been hearing people saying, I can't wait to get back to the way that things were. And that just sounds so, nostalgic, if that makes sense, because we will never go back to completely doing business the way that it was done prior to the pandemic. And I know that the people that are going to be beneficial to making the adaptation and the changes that are needed, you got people that have a fixed mindset that they figure that the only way to do business is the way that it was done prior to the pandemic. But if they don't open up and learn how to utilize the new tools with Zoom and webinars versus tabletop face-to-face meetings, we do electronic signings for notarizations for different things. Everything has changed. And if you keep doing the same things that you used to do, you're going to keep getting things that you used to get. But the thing of it is that the new world of business is not going to allow for us to keep doing things the way that we used to do it. If you don't adapt and change, you get left behind. And so that's what our goal is. That's what our mission is. That's what our mantra is we're going to embrace the necessary changes and make the moves and the shifts that you have to, because there's too much on the line to lose. So that's what we want to get everybody to know. It's okay to get comfortable with doing something new. It's okay to utilize the technology and the tools that we have to maximize your opportunity. We won't say take advantage of, but to maximize the opportunity that lies ahead. And those that embrace it and run with it, I mean, it can change your family financial situation forever. and never go back to the land of lack.
Mhm.
We'll move, we'll be able to expand our tents and territories and be beneficial and be a blessing. And that's what it's all about. That's what it all comes down to, you know.
Right. And Martin Luther King, in his speech, I've been to the mountaintop. He was really concerned about the inequality of
Absolutely.
the economic system. And before, like I said, his assassination, he was concerned about the people not getting fair treatment, God's children, because he considered all people, you're God's child, not receiving proper treatment here in this world. And
Right.
so my goal or my prayer is that we would come together, and build together. And I could say, like, in our industry, there have been many people who have started out and they've been the trendsetters, and they paved the ways for us to be able to be in this $8.5 trillion industry, which is awesome. And to find, ways to help educate individuals and bring them, up to date on what they can and cannot do. And so that's our goal, to follow after their steps at least, and be the trailblazers now and get the education out. It's very important. And even being a Black business owner myself, I must say, during COVID, I have a cleaners myself, and I hear a lot of people say that there's not this and that, they were supporting our culture, African-American culture. And not very many people, the percentage that actually comes to visit me, they're not African-American. Then when they were together, they came together. And like you stated, they rode, they didn't have cars, transportation like we do today. People complain about what they don't have. Oh, it's so far, I can't do this and that. But they will travel to wherever they want to go to get what they want. So we need to start also, trading with one another, stop complaining and saying what we don't have, because we do have. There are many African-American culture or people that have started businesses that we should support, that we should, lift up. So I've seen it as well, in the industry.
Absolutely. Well, you have people that they've had a bad experience, right?
Mhm.
And because they've had a bad experience, well, that's why I ain't gonna support them, so and so. That's what they do. That's how they do you. They charge you more and they give you less, and the service be bad. But if they take care of the other folk, they give excellent service and this, that, and the other. And the whole thing about it is, as we mentioned the other night when we did the interview and we were discussing, the Willie Lynch syndrome,
Right.
that is the fuel behind the mechanism that's in place. And if we don't break that, if we don't overcome it, if we don't do something about it, it's not going to change. And so I heard Dr. Fry mention some things that we as a people, if we don't look at this, and look at the person in the mirror when you're getting ready for work every morning and make a determined decision to make a change, that you're going to make a difference, it's not going to change. Nothing is going to change. We gotta be man and woman enough about that, to make that decision and make that happen.
Right. So I say we need to support each other and do what we need to do to, help level up and help build, our communities up, and, don't take away, but let's offer some good constructive criticism. And whatever area of your expertise is, or whatever you're doing, let's share that. Let's not put each other down.
Right.
And like I said, I offer service to everyone. But again, whether it be my health and wellness, whether it's, like I said, we have a brick and mortar building business that you come in, and we even touched on about how we don't want to do that type of work anymore. But we've got to start creating and building sustainable economic, creating jobs, in the world, period, but in our communities.
Absolutely. And then we need to reestablish our communities. We need to buy the houses that are in the neighborhoods that are become dilapidated and run down, and you could get them for little nothing. And then use the money, fix it up, and make it be something that you are not only proud of, but our ancestors will be proud of. They would love to see, sitting on that side of glory, look back to see that the children and grandchildren, great grandchildren of their lineage have decided that they're going to stand up and that they're going to make a difference, and they're going to do something that when we do go to that side where they are, we leave something. You don't want to go and don't have anything to show for it, or nothing that leaves a legacy for your children and your children's children. That would make a world of difference. And it's just starting small. You don't have to start out doing anything mega. You can just start with something small. Start with your own coverage that you have to start building tax-free income. You know what I'm saying? Because the pandemic payback is coming.
Yeah.
They're not going to give all of it. They're not printing $55,000 a second and passing it out, and not with the expectancy that they're going to get that money back one way or the other. So it's time for us to stop, thumbing our nose up at people that have less. Stop rolling your window up all the time when you see a need, instead of going ahead and doing it and making a change and making a difference, and holding yourself accountable. Right? Mm-hmm. If you go to an entrepreneur that's of African American descent, and they're charging you double what the people across the street are charging you, just as you said, constructive criticism. Is there a reason why, if I use you as my service provider, that you're charging me double what the other people are charging me? Mm-hmm. I mean, wouldn't it be better for us to kind of work out something to where it's profitable for you, for me to do business with you, instead of me taking my money somewhere else? Mm-hmm. Have that conversation with that person. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be combative. You don't have to be confrontational. Just, quietly, not in front of other customers, pull them to the side and say, man, why are you charging, $8 for something that they're charging $4 across the street for? Your rent can't be that much more. You know what I'm saying?
Now, what I will say though, Michael, depending on the product and depending on the ingredient, so it could be something totally different. Maybe the product, the solution, well, with me, solution, or even health and wellness. Because I can tell you some of the products that I recommend to individuals, they're whole food, plant-based food. So there's a difference between getting, a vitamin or a supplement that's going to actually feed your cells and that your body is going to actually be able to digest and balance it out than something than a $10 product, or because it's not breaking down the same way and feeding your body the way it really needs to. So I get that even with health and wellness, but my mission that God has, given me is to help my people, help everybody, but teach you about your own body, the way your body is built, because we're on a whole different system than our Caucasian brothers, and sisters and such. And so we have to know our bodies. We function differently. And I want the best, for them. So you can have that conversation, but there may be some some difference in the products or the services.
Yeah, as long as the business owner does like you just did and explain it, that's the difference. And then so now I have a better understanding of why, the product that you're talking about is more than the product that you can see on the shelves at Walmart. And then when I have that information, I can make educated decisions on how to move forward and why I'm doing it. So that's perfect. That was a perfect step.
Now, I will say though, in our cleaning though, we have some of the best prices, Michael, the lowest prices. And I have even received compliments how the solution doesn't smell like some of the harsh chemicals. But do you know that our people still come in and they still complain? It's not, it's something, but we just smile. We provide the best customer service because we want to be of excellence, to our people. So, and it's a matter of educating, like you said, and you have to know your value, know your worth, and what services you do provide. But
absolutely.
But I do want to see community, see us coming together and working together. And speaking on that point, real quick, patents, we come a long way, because there were some of our people who even had patents during slavery. Well, they didn't have patents because they couldn't get patents, but they were inventors. Right. And they weren't able to even patent their work because they were considered a slave. And right. I'm not proud, but the first patent that went forth, I have to say this just because of the business that I've been blessed with, but the first patent that was actually recognized by an African-American was also, he invented the dry cleaning, the little dry cleaning, the table. So that's awesome. But his name was Thomas Jennings, and he did get credit for it. That has just gone wild. Everyone all over the world, uses his invention, but there were many that did not have the opportunity. They made money, right. Some, if their masters didn't take their inventions, but and use them for their own. But I'm glad today for brothers, African-American descent, that know about how to get a patent, get their work done, that they're able to do that now.
Absolutely. It's been a blessing. So we're looking forward to being able to do some things and make some changes to people's lives, and having the forerunners of the Thomas Jennings and individuals, because as you said, there's no way for the people that weren't doing the work to come up with a better, easier way to do the work, right? But because of the laws in the land at the time, they couldn't get the recognition. And so that's, man, and so I have a very dear, just like you and Mr. Jennings having a tie, being able to say that that's something, an accomplishment that I was able to get taken care of.
Yes.
That's like you said, it's a blessing. And knowing that we will be able to benefit from what, has been bestowed from above because of a need, came up with a device. And actually my second one, first one, I didn't get the credit for it, and I had to give it up because of, at the time, my source of employment. The employer took credit for my invention that I did, and it saved them over $48 million a year in salary for paying people to process the tested parts that were coming out of the machine. Mm-hmm. And so I made it a point in my life at 23 years old. I said, I'm never doing that again.
I'm curious before I make one more point. How much did you get out of that? They made how much? And you got what?
They saved $48 million a year, right?
Wow.
They didn't offer me a percentage of what they saved.
Wow.
Nor did they pay me for doing it, because I had signed in my contract that anything that I brought to the table from the engineering perspective, that it would become property of Texas Instruments, TI, known. And they gave me a t-shirt, a TI t-shirt, a TI water bottle, and dinner for two to some Italian restaurant, that I was like, wow. Oh, and I got featured in the company bulletin as, this engineer has done this and created this device for us to be able to utilize. It's going to save TI $48 million annually as they go through the testing process. So it was an eye opener for me. And so I'm really on point with understanding how people, the forefathers that did the inventions and did the things to make work better, didn't get the credit for it, didn't get the monetization from it. And so, yeah, we can go about that one for a long time. So we put a stake in that one, and let's keep it moving, because I'm telling you, it's amazing.
Wow. Well, before we close, and we're at the end of the show, you're listening to Living Life Successfully with Sonja Busha. I want to thank you for joining us on tonight. We've been talking about, creating a sustainable economic system, period. Wow. And we've been talking about how there has been, even the pace that our pioneers started, our African-American pioneers started, for us to have a better economic system moving forward. And I want to leave with you 5 financial lessons that Dr. Martin Luther King left us. He said, number 1, don't wait for economic change. He said to create it. Number 2, financial freedom is worth fighting for. I like that because that's in our mission statement. Number 3, sometimes you need to step out on faith and take a risk. Number 4, your education, job, or career status does not define you. And number 5, take your work seriously. Don't look at it as a hobby. Be thankful for what God has blessed you to do, and go, do what you've been called to do, because there is somebody that is waiting for you to be in position to move them forward. And if you're not where you're supposed to be, just think about how many people are at a standstill and they're not able to move forward because you don't have your stuff together. Absolutely. So with that being said, I want to thank you. Make sure y'all stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Living Life Successfully with Sonja Busha. Our contact information is at the end of this show. We want to thank you. Thank you. If you have any questions, any financial concerns, please put your information in the chat box. Schedule your appointments. We will contact you. I've had so much fun this evening. Thank you for sharing with me, Michael. And we have some more to bring for you in the next few days. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you look for that alert to turn on Living Life Successfully. And Michael, will you just say bye and give them your contact information one more time, please?
Well, again, thank you, Dr. Busha, for having us. It's always a pleasure, pleasing and stimulating to talk about the tough topics of the day with you. And hopefully your listeners are gaining some knowledge that will be beneficial. If you need to get in contact with me, michael.deckard@gmail.com, or text 40292-263-975. Jump on the LinkedIn page. You'll find out what we're doing. You'll hear about where we're going. Get with us, schedule some time, 15 to 30 minutes, change your life forever.
All right, then. So without further ado, y'all know what time it is again. Not only it's in my time, but I always tell you it's your time. Just step into it and let's just do it. Again, I do not own the rights to this song. It's My Time by Kelly Price. Y'all keep your heads up. See you soon.
I've been waiting for a long time, gotta do it. And won't let nothing hold me down.